let's get into it. The main topic, pretty much the bulk of today's episode. There are rumors going around that, and honestly, there's been rumors for a while, but that the Wolves could be connected with Kevin Durant in potentially a trade. Now, before I throw it to you, let me go over some of the accolades for Kevin Durant. I mean, the guy needs no introduction, but 11-time All-NBA, 1-time All-Rookie Team, 14-time All-Star, 2-time NBA All-Star Most Valuable Player, which means nothing, 2 NBA championships, 2 NBA Finals Most Valuable Players, 1 NBA in-season tournament All-Tournament Team, 1 NBA Most Valuable Player, 14-time NBA Player of the Month, 31-time NBA Player of the Week, 5-time Rookie of the Month, 1-time Rookie of the Year, 4 Olympic gold medals, which is the highest for any male basketball athlete, 7 all-time in scoring in the playoffs, 8th all-time in scoring in the regular season, and he's going to be 37 years old when next season starts. Let's just get your general thoughts on Kevin Durant potentially being a Minnesota Timberwolf this offseason.
It would be interesting. Like, it'd be interesting to see how that fit is. And just like anything, I would have to see the trade package. If we're talking, it depends on who we move, but it could be exciting. I mean, just to have a guy who can give you 21 points a game, 25 points a game every night consistently is a great asset to lean on. That's kind of Randall was that for a long time this season, where he was pretty consistent. He'd give you 18, he's going to give you that almost every night. It's nice to have, we don't have many guys like that on our roster that you can just assume you're going to get 18 points out of. Durant would be another one of those. So it's nice to just have that. So it could be fun. I just need to know what we're moving to make it work.
Right. Absolutely. And like you said, it depends what we're giving up, and it depends how much, particularly in the regular season, because obviously Kevin Durant, you're going to want him in the playoffs. But how much with Anthony Edwards, and if we keep Jaden McDaniels or Julius Randle, how much on a night-to-night basis? It's almost like the Conley thing from last season. How much do we need to lean on him to win a game in Atlanta in December, right? How much do we need to lean on him to beat the Nets in February? Where if we have Ant and maybe a guy like Randall there, maybe KD doesn't need to do as much. We can preserve him and then use him more long-term for kind of the playoff run. But it's going to be, go ahead.
I think that's a great point. And I know the NBA has that rule, because I'm hoping we'll get some more TV games even this year, because back-to-back Western Conference Finals, I hope we do. They've got that rule that you can't sit out televised games or back to something like that. But there's a cutoff for old guys. So he would, I think, make it on that list. And if we could do this deal and hold on to Randall, who, again, I like maybe more than some people, but either way, he's consistent and he gives you numbers, he gives you production, so that we don't need him to win those games. We can, like you said, sit him. And if there's one thing that we might have learned from this season, is it kind of only matters if you're playing good at the end of the year. The seeding, and I've been pounding the table about it this whole year on this podcast. I don't care what seed we are. As long as we're in the playoffs and we're playing well at the end of the year, that's all I care about. And I think it would really fit into that kind of strategy, this sort of move.
Right, but we do need to remember, and I know I keep bringing this up, but it's huge. He is going to be 37 years old, and like all players who have had a longevity, he has had injuries problems, and I just kind of want to go through his injury issues of the past. 10 years ago, he had a Jones fracture. 16-17, he had a left MCL sprain. 18-19, he had a strained right calf. Of course, he tore his Achilles That's the big one in the 2019 NBA Finals. So that's always lingering as well. Left hamstring strain 2021, left MCL sprain 21-22, and then right MCL sprain 22-23. And then last year he had some ankle issues. And I'm no doctor, obviously, but I mean, it's definitely a concern, particularly if you're going to sell the house for 1 year of Kevin Durant and you're going to go all in. And I wonder if it's a shift in Tim Connolly where he sees how good Anthony Edwards is. And I'm not going to call him LeBron James yet, but
Right.
you almost got to look at like those LeBron Cavs where, I mean, LeBron obviously came back and won them a championship, but his first go around, they failed at building a good enough team around him to win the NBA Finals. And maybe Tim Connolly's new strategy is, hey, we're just going to do a carousel of veterans, good veterans to come in here and essentially build around Anthony Edwards. I mean, it's been a whirlwind since Anthony Edwards came into the league. I mean, you started with his point guard of Ricky Rubio, then you bring in D'Lo and Cat. I mean, you don't bring in Cat, but Cat's there, and then you trade for Rudy Gobert. All of those pieces are gone. Then you
Patrick
trade Cat.
Beverly was like a interesting mix in there.
Yeah. You throw, and then you trade Cat for Julius Randle and Donte DiVincenzo, and now he may take another big swing.
Yeah.
Particularly, and you got to remember this, I know it feels like they've been there for a while, but pretty soon Mark Lowry and A-Rod are going to be the guys. Like there'll be no Glenn Taylor at courtside. It'll just be A-Rod and Lowry, and I feel like they might want to take a big swing here and really make their mark and try to endear themselves to Wolves fans, which they already have. But I feel like they might do it.
You know, we'll see. You know, I think I could see I think Tim Connolly's pulling the strings. He's the brains behind it. I don't think he really cares what A-Rod thinks, to be honest. Like he's going to do what's smart for the organization, which is what I'm happy about. But I do think that there's a difference when an owner says, hey, I understand that Kevin Durant's on a 1-year deal, which means, you know, for 52 or whatever it is next year.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
And then after the biggest question is what happens after that? You know, like, does Kevin Durant want a 3-year deal worth $70 million a year? You know,
to go to 40? I don't know.
Like, does he want it for 65 mil? Like, what is the next contract? And if that's the case, like we just traded Karl-Anthony Towns, I think a lot because of fit, maybe more than others, but also because that contract was crazy and it crippled us long-term. So if we go and we trade multiple players and then end up getting another huger contract, are we getting like, we're kind of getting right in the same problem. So I don't know if it's really going to happen. Like, I kind of think it's more just the fun of the off season. Also remember, almost every trade that you've heard about never happens. Like almost 99% of the trades you hear on the internet aren't the ones that happen. And the ones that happen are the ones you've never heard about. So I'm guessing it's all fun, but even if we're having fun, you know, you give me Rudy Gobert, Donte DiVincenzo, and like Dillingham, I might think about it because, you know, Rudy Gobert's got a contract we don't want, you know, long term. So I think Conley would do it, but it would have to be moving pieces that he also kind of wants to move off the roster to make it work. I don't think he's going to give up the farm like you know, for a 1-year rental on an old guy. I think it's, here's my best package. If you take it, cool. If not, we'll go somewhere else.
Right, for sure. And my question is, I was thinking about this. Obviously, Durant, awesome player, right? Offensive player, at least. I mean, 50%, even last year.
He's a good defensive player, too.
Decent defensive player. Yeah. His defensive ratings aren't exactly where you'd want him to be, but that's kind of where that kind of goes on to the Suns were kind of a mess last year. But I obviously offensively, right? 50+ % from the field, 43% from three, and this is when he's 36 years old. I was trying to go through the Suns Reddit and Suns articles and the beat writers just to figure out why they thought that Durant, Booker, and Beal didn't work. And then I also tried to go through past articles from the Nets where you had Kyrie, Harden, and KD on the same team. And basically this is the conclusion that I got after reading and listening to quotes. The Nets stuff was basically a Kyrie and Harden mess. That's why that didn't work. And you got to remember, they were a foot on the line away from the Eastern Conference Finals. Like if that foot's not on the line, the Bucks don't win the championship.
Correct.
But so that was kind of I completely forgot this. Kyrie, KD, and Harden played 16 games together.
Yep.
That's crazy. And remember, that was the middle of COVID as well. KD also coming off an injury as well. So I think that's a little excusable, right? Like that's just the craziness of Kyrie. No matter where you stand on the issue, it was a crazy situation. Now, the Suns situation is a little bit more different because obviously they come off a NBA Finals berth. And they get rid of DeAndre Ayton, and then they bring in Kevin Durant. That team actually wins a first-round playoff series. Then they bring in Bradley Beal and get swept in the first round by what team was that? Oh, yeah, that's right, us. So it was interesting, and I was trying to figure out why that didn't work, and I'll get your take on this in a second. But I think it chalks up to Bradley Beal wasn't the best fit for that team. Also, I also feel like they didn't build the other pieces around him right. I mean, Yusuf Nurkic was basically played out. Like they basically didn't play him whatsoever. He was basically out of the lineup for a while. And Tyus Jones didn't have a great year. Royce O'Neal didn't have a great year. And I just don't think they had the pieces around them where they may have it in Minnesota. But what's your take on why it didn't work in his past stops post, of course, Golden State, where you won 2 championships?
Yeah. And that's what I was talking defensively in Golden State. I mean, I remember him being actually quite a shot blocker. I don't know what his numbers were, but when he was there, I felt like he was like a rim protector even, which surprised me. The Nets, he was a soldier there. Like he did his work. He was a gamer. Like that was a mess. Like that was chaos. And you can't have 3 ball dominant guys. It just doesn't work. Like those guys need the ball. Durant's the least needy of the rock. But he needs to touch it a lot. And so do those other guys. So I think that's a terrible strategy for a GM. I think that's just bad team building. And then I think the Suns did the same thing. They got excited. They got a new ownership. And they're like, hey, we're going to shoot for the stars. And we're going to trade all of this young depth that they're just like, okay, they're gamers. They're hustlers. We're going to trade all those guys, defensive guys, scrappy guys. And we're going to get these big names because, you know, big names sell tickets. Big names win games, right? But they don't because they're too redundant. You know, like you can't have 3 guys that like to operate in the mid-range. Because there's only one mid-range, you know, so like those 3 guys aren't effective doing the same thing because now you're only doing one thing. So like it was cool name-wise. It's cool to have the jersey sales probably, but it's just bad team building. Like now you've got 3 wings. None of them are really a point guard. None of them are really big enough to post up. So you've kind of got all just the same guy. And it's just bad. So you have to build, even if you have stars, you have to have the other guys. Like you have to have the scrappy guys. You have to have the guys that rebound. You have to have the guys that, you know, fill the gaps. And you can't have too much of the same thing.
Right. I mean, you just got to look, and I know we mentioned this at the beginning, the 2 teams in the NBA Finals right now. Shea is a star, right? Yeah. Tyrese Halliburton is kind of a strange star. He's a clutch star, but he's not night to night, he's not putting up 30, right? On most nights. But
he's in between the stat star. He's a guy that like fills the entire box. Yeah, he's that kind of guy.
Right. But Almost now, I'm not saying they're the same kind of passer, but almost kind of like a hybrid Steve Nash, in my opinion.
Sure.
Kind of that. But it's interesting because you look at those two teams and they're just so well built. A lot of OKC did it through the Paul George trade, obviously, and the draft as well, drafting well. Just all these guys, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, just a well-built team. And then Indiana, they're just so they just have guys that come off the bench. They have Obi Toppin having put back dunks and hitting threes. They got Nembhard. McConnell won them the game last night. McConnell won them that game. They wouldn't be in that game if it wasn't for the small, scrappy TJ McConnell. And you just need to be a well-built team. And the other side of it too, talking about the contract is, and this is depending on if you sell the farm for Kevin Durant. If you don't sell the farm for Kevin Durant, it is a 1-year contract. So if it doesn't work, and let's say
it doesn't work, you've got cap room all of a sudden.
Right, you got cap room, and you have Anthony Edwards under contract that you can go get someone else. So
nice rebuild.
So, and this is maybe putting my cards on the table a little bit. That trade you mentioned, that trade that's going around with, it's reported Gobert, Donte, and Rob.
Yeah.
I do it. I try it. Because I don't know how much Rob Dillingham's going to progress. I don't know. I think
all you're losing is Donte.
Donte, yeah.
And he was okay.
And Gobert.
But you want to get rid of Gobert. Gobert's contract's like 4 or 5 years right now. He's not going to be worth $40 million down the road, and we're hard on money. So, like, Gobert, I love him to death, and he's a great player, and he's a great need for us. But, you know, the NBA is kind of moving to a point where it's just harder and harder for him to be impactful. And so if we lose him, I'm not heartbroken. Right. And Bones Highland was here for a reason.
What is that reason?
I mean, he's basically Dillingham. He's the same guy. He's the same shifty guy. I don't think Dillingham and Bones Highland will be on the team at the same time. And I think that it's possible that Tim Connolly and maybe even Chris Finch, who knows, trusts a guy who's been in the league a little longer, a little bit bigger, it's been healthier, you know, like I don't think losing Dillingham is a huge loss. Think of it as a future first-round pick. That's all we gave up.
Right. At least right now, at least the way it looks right now. Yeah, I mean, he did have some spurts, but
for sure. He's just little. It's hard to be amazing when you're little.
Right. And it's also easier to give up on him when it's a generational talent, which I read off all those accolades at the beginning. Yeah, Hall of Famer, top 10 player all time. You can debate that, but I think so. And it's a 1-year rental. Is there anyone on the team other than Anthony Edwards, obviously, that you wouldn't give up for Kevin Durant? Who do you not want to give up for Kevin Durant?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that comes down to like what contracts are these guys going to get? You know, like if we're talking 1-for-1, like what is Julius Randle going to sign long term? He's quite a bit younger, and if he's going to sign a team-friendly deal for like 3 or 4 years, I don't know, like at $30-some million or even less, that would be amazing. I might take him as more of building a franchise long-term than dropping $50 million on, you know, a one-time guy. Like, so other than him, Nas, I would have to see what he's asking for, you know, but I don't think so. You know, like Rudy's the main guy. I would move Jaden. I don't think there's many guys that I would hold it. But the problem is for me with Randall, let's say we had Randall long-term. Let's pretend we re-sign him to a 3-year deal. Right. If we trade him for Durant and then Durant's gone in 1 year, I think we're maybe out of the playoffs after that. I think a team with Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, an older Rudy Gobert, and Nas as the only main guys, I think we're out of the playoffs. So, like, if you're willing to be that, to take that big of a drop off, okay. Because then maybe you can rebuild and you've got some money to use, and maybe that's a strategy. But I would be worried about that move.
Now, if we win a championship, does that matter?
And I say for some people they'd say no, and I get it. And I'm the type of guy who likes to see the long game. Like, I like to watch. I want to see a franchise dominate for a long time. Like, I'd rather see, and this is probably rare or different or frowned upon. I'd rather see us go to 6 Western Conference Finals, or like 4 more. Let's say past here in the next 10 years. Let's say we go to 4 Western Conference Finals in the 10 years. I'd rather see that than us win a championship next year and miss the playoffs 5 of the next 10. You know what I mean? Like, I would, that one win and then just garbage again. Like does Milwaukee really hang their hat on that championship? Like, are Milwaukee Bucks fans like, dude, we were champs back in the day? Like, is that a big thing, or are they kind of like, man, our team's kind of junk?
I think it does. I mean, and here's why. If we were in Boston,
Toronto.
If we were in Boston, well, my pushback with the Toronto thing is they were pretty good for a while. They just couldn't get over the LeBron hump until they got Kawhi Leonard, which we're hoping maybe
kind of sounds like us.
Yeah, exactly. Which could be our Kawhi Leonard. Here's the thing. In this state where we haven't won a championship in my lifetime since the Minnesota Twins won in 1991, a championship, the first team to do it, and no, I'm not talking about the Frost. No, I'm not talking about the Lynx. Lynx
much respect to them too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Nafis Collier is maybe the best player in the league.
Yeah.
And the Frost, actually, shout out to Kelly Panic. She went to my middle school and she's on the Frost. But anyway, yeah. Here's the thing. In a state that is so hungry for a championship, if you can do it, we'll celebrate it for the next 20 years. And it won't matter. Yeah. And here's the other thing. I know that A-Rod and Laurie are going to want a winner long-term, right? Because because just business, right? It's good business. Like, for example, the Paul George Indiana Pacers, like that era, Victor Oladipo too. They went to the playoffs so many years in a row, and they were making money, right? Because people were excited. They weren't going to the NBA Finals, but they were making a ton of money. So there is something to be said about being in the middle and being relevant. Man, I want that. I want that championship, and I think that so many fans want that championship. And Kevin Durant might be the way to do it. Might be the way to do it.
Well, I mean, again, if the deal is Durant for Gobert, Donte, and Dillingham, like we're getting the more talent for sure. Like we're winning that trade on a 1 year run, on a 1 year. Like if you have it in single season mode on 2K instead of franchise mode, that's a great deal. So, and if that's what we're trying to do, then we win that. Yeah. I would be very interested to see. My biggest fear with the Durant thing is, what does a contract look like going forward? What does he want after that 55? If it goes up, yuck. Like that's hard to.
Right. No, I agree. But that's my point is, if it doesn't work after 1 year, we can use that contract. Someone's going to want to play with Ant, right?
You'd hope. Yeah. I don't know if we'd be out of the salary. I don't know if we'd be in the free agency type area with money wise yet, but we would be definitely out of all the trouble. Like I think you've got a good point. And here's my A-Rod used car salesman kind of vibe here with this. If we get Durant, we're the talk of the town. We're the talk of the NBA next season. He's the new, they're Laurie, and they're the new owners of this team that's the talk of the town. They're going to be front and center everywhere. They're trying to build a new stadium. The fans are going to be behind it. They said it's going to be not taxpayer funded, but you could slip in a couple of half $500 million of taxpayers' money when you're the talk of the NBA and everyone's excited about you. And then once all that stuff gets finalized, the next year, boom, Durant walks, the team takes a drop, but everything's been done. You get you got the deal for the new stadium. and then you can save your money because you're out of all the aprons and the luxury tax. There might be something there.
And I honestly think, and I know what you mentioned earlier, just to wrap up a little bit, I think the goal is to win a championship. And if you think that Durant is the missing piece to win a championship, do it then. Like that's the ultimate goal, particularly in a small market. And
how often does that come up where a Hall of Famer that is still all-star quality, if not even better than that,
right,
wants to go to your team, and you are in a striking space where you're right. That doesn't happen every year. Like, that's not a thing that happens to the Minnesota Timberwolves franchise a lot.
Right. And another thing I'll say about Durant, he almost what we didn't mention is the Kevin Durant Ant relationship where he's playing with his idol. I don't know how much that goes into it, but you know that Ant would be over the moon at that, first of all. Second of all, I feel like Kevin Durant isn't a ball like soup as much as like a Harden or a Kyrie, as much of a ball dominant player where Ant could still have the ball, but hey, if we need some clutch jumpers here and there, or we need some clutch shots, just give it over to KD and let him go. Like let him do his thing. I mean, that high volume of shots and still shooting 53% from the field at 36 years old and shooting 43% from three. That's super enticing. And let me say one more thing. If we were to give up like a DiVincenzo in this deal, that might even be better for DiVincenzo at the end, because if it is true that he wants to start. Now, he was great putting that aside, saying, hey, I'm going to do what I can for the team. I'll be one of the first two off the bench. He might thrive in Phoenix if he gets such high, and I know this is talking from a Phoenix perspective, but if he gets that high volume of shooting where him and Booker can just kind of cook, so to say. Like, for example,
Grayson Allen was good for them.
Yeah,
he's way better than Grayson Allen.
I think so. And look at Malik Beasley this year, right?
Right.
He filled a role. All he did was pin down threes, and he was great at it. Maybe they can do that in Phoenix, and maybe it's a win-win trade for everyone, and maybe Phoenix builds a new culture around Rudy Gobert and maybe Rob Dillingham. The future, we win a championship next year, and then we can see where it goes from there. So to finish up the podcast, do you want Kevin Durant, one, just to wrap it all up, and B, do you think it's going to happen?
Well, you convinced me I want him. I mean, I kind of wanted him, but now I'm locked in. I want him. And do I think it's going to happen? I mean, no, I don't think it's going to happen, just because it's crazy to think Kevin Durant's going to come to the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's insane to think that that's even a possibility as a guy who's, been around the Timberwolves this long. But Tim Connolly is an interesting man, so we'll see.
Right. Here's the thing. If it was David Kahn, I would say no chance this happens.
If it's David Kahn, he would have told you he would have been at least chasing it. Like, he would have at least tried his hardest.
Right.
He'd let you know.
Well, what David Kahn would do is he'd say he's trading for Kevin Durant, and then he'd trade two draft picks for two other draft picks who he'd trade for two other draft picks. Yeah. And then you'd end up with nobody.
Yeah. Shout out Michael Beasley.
It would, it'd be an interesting video we could do one time. What would have happened if we drafted Steph Curry?
I mean, who knows? I'd love to do it. I'm a pro David Kahn guy, so I'm still telling you, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Tim Connolly, get it done.
My opinion is I want Kevin Durant, but the optimistic pessimist in me says I don't think it's going to happen. I think he'll go to the Rockets or the Spurs or something else. Could you imagine the Spurs just keep getting richer? I mean,
there's a talk that Dallas isn't going to take Cooper Flagg, and they're going to take Harper because they need a point guard because Kyrie Irving's going to opt out. So if they take a point guard, that drops Cooper Flagg to San Antonio at the number 2 spot. And then they've got Durant, Cooper Flagg, and Wembanyama.
And Castle. Castle's a rookie of the year.
And Castle and Fox.
Yeah.
Not a bad squad.
I think they're going to take Cooper. I really do. That enticing of Anthony Davis and Cooper Flagg. I think it's too much to pass up. Anyway, we've talked 30 minutes about Kevin Durant. If you like what we do, make sure to give us a like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, easy flight, Sun Country to Phoenix. Let's go pick them up.
I've done it. It's I only paid like $79.
Yeah, dude. I'll fly down there and help you pack, my guy.
It almost feels like Brett Favre back in the day.
Exactly.
Remember when we're like, oh, we're gonna get Favre, and then people were down like Jared Allen was going down to pick him up and stuff. Yeah,
let's go get him.
Yeah. And make sure to stay with us because we're going to be covering, if anything big happens, we're going to do a podcast every week. We're going to do some fun stuff as well. If nothing happens, and even if something happens as well. Basically what I'm saying, keep it tuned to Running with the Timberwolves on the Believe Sports Network. And as always, go Wolves.